Hey friends, Tyler James from Comics Launch here. Excited to be hopping on for a little live stream with y'all. A couple things I want to do on today's broadcast. I'm going to dive into a surprising new feature that Kickstarter just rolled out that I wasn't aware of until I saw a tweet from Pat Shand. And this is one that, Pat called it a game changer. I think for those of us that have long-running series on Kickstarter or big backlists, it's definitely a welcome feature. And we're going to take a look at it, how it works, and what the best use cases for it are, as well as I have a few ideas on how Kickstarter can make it even better. While I'm here, I also do want to respond to the old Comics Launch mailbag. I received an email that was from a creator that is sort of a newbie creator, not necessarily new to creating comics, but new to the world of Kickstarter, and had a series of questions that are the kind of thing that, a lot of times I end up spending a lot of time talking about more advanced stuff, but it's important to recognize that every single day there are new people jumping on and launching for the very first time. And so share a little bit of just answer some questions, because he took the time to hit up my inbox, and I'll take the time to respond to him. Before I dive into that, though, I did want to give a couple of shout outs to some Comics Launch pros. Saw this post in the private Comics Launch Pro group, but I actually want to shine a little light on it and shout out creator Joey Oliveira. Joey posted this. He said, in 2024, I managed to crowdfund 12 Kickstarter campaigns successfully. 12 campaigns, Joey. That's insane. He said, in the last 4 weeks, I wrapped up fulfillment for the final 3 campaigns, and I felt this picture summed it up. Chaotic. Yeah, definitely. Anyone that has fulfilled a Kickstarter campaign or is especially in the world of comics and books, knows how quickly those boxes can pile up. Joey went on to say, it's thanks to starting Comics Launch 8 years ago, giving me the foundation to be able to keep doing this as a full-time publisher. Even when it can be so tough at times, it is so worth it, feeling blessed. So, I really appreciate that, Joey posting that. And yeah, I've been doing this for a while now, and it is always cool to see creators that, even jumped on in the early part, kind of dipping their toes in the water of this whole crowdfunding thing, and then fast forward 8 years and launching every single month. Like, that's crazy. But Joey's doing it, man, and putting out good content across a number of kinds of launches. And I expect 2025 to continue to build on what Joey's been able to put out into the world. So congrats to Joey. While I'm here, I also want to shout out a few Comics Launch Pro creators that have launched in December. As you may or may not know, on Kickstarter, the total number of projects that are live at any given point will ebb and flow and vary throughout the year. And right now, we're sort of getting towards the low point of the year in terms of total number of projects live. So I think there's only about 140 projects that are live right now. The lowest I saw it get this year was 90 live comic book projects. And that was like the 2nd of January. So, but for the creators that are brave and launching, I want to give a shout out to Ben Lacey, who has his project Shark of War. Ben's just been, he's been taking one step at a time and going steadily to build up the Shark of War franchise. He's on his 8th launch here. This thing is like 95% funded, and it has 9 hours to go. It is basically Jaws meets RoboCop, and exactly, you're getting exactly what you see here. Killer robotic shark versus killer robotic whale, and Ben has just continued to deliver on these things and keeps putting them out. So hopefully then we'll get that last extra push for Shark of War 1 through 8 in the final 9 hours. Also, shouting out a couple Comics Tribe projects that ended in the last day or two. Sam Johnson, his Cabrasini Geek Girl Exodus crossover comic wrapped up just the other day with over $4,500 raised, 120 backers. And if you subscribe to the Comics Launch podcast or listen to it wherever you listen to podcasts, you will actually see a interview with Sam Johnson coming up that Clay Adams did. And so that'll be coming up on, I believe, this week's Comics Launch podcast. So definitely check out more from Sam, and congrats to Sam for getting this thing funded. And then I also want to shout out Jack Harris, whose latest launch for Terminus Veil, his series that he's funded on Kickstarter, as well as a couple other books. It seems like he's packaging a couple of different projects into his launches, but he wrapped up recently and successfully funded his second Kickstarter, raising $7,800 on a $6,000 goal. So congrats to Jack for that. Also, in terms of something else to shout, I wanted to shout out a Substack. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Yeah. Shouting out Kevin Laporte. Kevin's a Comics Launch Pro member as well, but he's been putting out this interesting Substack where every single day, or sometimes he'll wrap a couple of days together. But Kevin's been putting out a Substack called The Comics Crowd, which it's just thecomicscrowd.substack.com, and literally every single day Kevin hops on. And he hops on Kickstarter and analyzes what new comics dropped on Kickstarter that day, and so this was yesterday's drop that he shared, and let's see, am I not logged in? Okay, so I guess the audio edition, so you can actually listen to this. He'll put out an audio edition, and that's for subscribers. And then his Substack for the physical editions, each day he just does a quick analysis of all of the different projects that dropped on Kickstarter, and he breaks it down by the numbers. Also points out comics that he is into or that he might be backing, and it's just kind of an interesting way to look at the comic market on hey, what went live today or in the last 24 hours. And so if you're feel like you're missing out potentially on some good comics that are launching on Kickstarter, or if you want to a filter to sort through, Kevin's The Comics Crowd Substack is kind of a cool feature that you can go check out, and he will just break it down, what's launching on Kickstarter and what's worth checking out. And there have been some times where I'll pick up his thing and I'll definitely discover some comics that I would probably otherwise miss. So Kevin's doing good work proselytizing all of the various comics that is out. Yeah. So again, here's today's drop. 4 new comics, I believe, in the last four comics and 1 graphic novel dropped in the last 24 hours, and he breaks it down. Some running themes that Kevin notices is like the prevalence of not safe for work / he calls them, I think, cover. What does he call them? Porn cover mill projects. And Kevin's also been sort of he's been watching for those sort of fraudulent AI projects, the projects that looks like a real project, but they might only have some AI generated images, very little or no actual sequential comic pages, and questionable creative teams as to, is there any actual heart and soul behind these? Now, Kickstarter, I think, after these projects just started blowing up and 5, 10, 15 a week getting posted, that clearly were these soulless projects. Kickstarter took some steps, and I think that those number of those projects have gone down, and some of the projects that still sort of fit that model have gone down a little bit as well. But some of the projects that still get through, maybe working a little bit harder to get that AI model. So anyway, it's glad that I'm glad to hear that there's people out there like Kevin that's just keeping their finger on the pulse, and it's fun to check out and see what's launching on Kickstarter on a daily basis. So again, shout out the comics crowd over on Substack. All right, I'm going to get into my topic today, which is the new Kickstarter feature. But before I do that, I'm going to do a little just for fun. I'm going to share a teaser trailer that I created. But before I do that, let's look at what I think is just a brilliant example of an incredibly well done teaser trailer for a real major blockbuster film that you are probably going to see. So let's watch. Just dropped the Superman official teaser that dropped today. It's funny. I was chatting with one of my buddies, and he's like, "Yeah, the I don't know, the music that they used sounds a little bit too much like the original score." And I was like, "Yeah, that's because it is the original score. It's just a hot electric guitar of John Williams." So I love this. I mean, James Gunn, especially after wrapping up the Guardians of the Galaxy trilogy, I think he's the right man for the job here. And I love, and we'll see more of it in this trailer as we go through. But I love how comic booky this is, and also I love that he's just going in deep cuts into the DC universe in terms of cameos, and really does feel like he's setting up something big and vast, that in a way that a lot of the previous iterations of the DC universe characters haven't necessarily felt that. They've felt kind of siloed off, and this just feels like, man, we've got a huge universe going here.
Crypto. Home. Take me home.
Superman.
Yeah, man, hits all the right notes for me. Let me know what you think about the new teaser trailer that dropped. Would love to hear how, what your excitement level is for the new Superman flick. I think Rachel Brosnahan, aka Miss Maisel, is like god tier casting for Lois Lane. I think, yeah, it looks like there's some great cameos. Guy Gardner. Yeah, just top to bottom. I think it's gonna, and I bet you there's gonna be like knowing what you know about James Gunn, celebrity cameos, guest appearances, setting up future things like this really does seem like it's going to be the big thing to restart the new DCU. So I'm there for it. I'll be there July 11th. My stepfather, my father-in-law has been asking what's the next movie we're going to do. So I think I'll definitely convince him to go see Superman in the IMAX. It's the only way to see it. All right. So talking teasers, speaking of teasers, I also put together a teaser just the other day for the new volume of Sync. It's called City of Killers, and it is nowhere as polished as what we just watched. But y'all are tuning in here because you like comics and you like indies. So I'm going to share with y'all the City of Killers teaser trailer that I just whipped up. And let's watch this. An unstoppable assassin with a single mission: kill Mr. Dig, an elderly woman haunted by her childhood encounter with a vampire. A ruthless crime boss struggles to keep his vice grip on the Sink Hill underworld. A serial killer hunts for victims on a bus laden with booby traps. An aspiring chef uncovers grim surprises after entering a burger competition. And connecting all these tales is the mysterious murder of a young boy discarded in the trash with bite wounds in his neck. As dark forces converge, Glasgow has become a city of killers. So quick and to the point, but yes, one of the coolest things about this upcoming launch for Sync City of Killers, not only is it going to be the biggest collected volume of Sync, over 200 pages of content. It'll collect Dig number 1, which was a 64-page sort of OGN, and it will collect the entire third volume, Sync Volume 3, which includes 11 through 15 of the Sync series. And it's just going to be a tremendous volume. But we also have the all new, brand new limited edition Mr. Dig plush, which will be launching alongside of this. We just got our hands on the prototype the other day. Came out amazing, and we hope our fans are going to dig it. But if you are somebody that is a Sync fan, or if at least that teaser, if you've never heard of Sync before, but that teaser looked a little bit interesting to you, the music, shout out James Fairley, does the Sync background music and all. But if that sounds good to you, if that's something that
Find the door.
There we go. That was the last one. But you can go check out the pre-launch page, which is now set up over at Kickstarter. So yeah, we're up to 71 followers, which is cool for the pre-launch, and just starting to get the word out about it now. Usually we're gonna hopefully get up to 200 or 300, 400, 500 people on that pre-launch page before we launch. And also want to shout out to John Lees, who John is the writer of Sync, the creator of Sync, one of the nicest guys in comics, and he only just now let me know that I had been pronouncing his hometown incorrectly all these years. Glasgow, which is how a lot of Americans pronounce it. The Glaswegians, proper Glaswegians will pronounce it Glasgow, Glazgo. And I was saying Glasgow like a glass cow, like a terrible, ugly American, right? And so I actually had to record a second version of the video and re-upload just to get it right for John, because it's the book itself, written by John, is as authentic Scott as it can get. But I want to make sure I get that right for all of you. So definitely check out Sync, comicstribe.com/sync will take you over to that pre-launch page for City of Killers if you're interested in limited edition hardcover, new softcover version, or hope a lot of you will go and grab a Mr. Dig collectible plush, which is pretty awesome. All right. let me set things up. We're going to get into one of my major topics for today, a new feature alert over on Kickstarter. But let me make sure I have a couple of things set up here, so bear with me for a sec. All right. All right. Today, I'm going to be talking about a new feature that Kickstarter has implemented. And you might not have noticed it because I didn't notice it. I actually didn't notice it until I saw a tweet from Pat Shand. But one of the things that has been pretty remarkable about this year in comics and crowdfunding is that Kickstarter, after being relatively static for a long time, seemed to take things up several notches from a software and development standpoint in terms of finally rolling out a whole number of new features, that many of which that creators have been asking since the dawn of Kickstarter. And so, I've been chronicling it on the ComixLaunch podcast, and you've probably noticed it if you are a Kickstarter creator yourself. But Kickstarter's been busy this year. Some of the things that they rolled out, like since December of last year, they revamped their text editor. They added new discoverability to projects, including projects before they launch. They started supporting late pledges. They rolled out a new backer survey. They have let creators do pre-launch pages and edit the pre-launch pages and add information to the pre-launch pages and totally revamp that UI. So they've been busy. And one thing that they haven't done, though, recently is they haven't actually updated their product updates page, because they've rolled out a new feature and they haven't even updated this. And so that's why I had to, it wasn't until I saw this tweet from Pat Shand. Pat said, "The execution of Kickstarter's new import AI feature is a game changer. Great work, Everett." And there he's shouting out Everett Taylor, the CEO of Kickstarter, who is running a good ship over there and making sure that the platform is ever improving. And so one of the things that I've decided to do is, hey, let me go, Pat's checking this out. Let me go check it out as well. And I want to share this new feature with all of you. So what exactly are we talking about, though? What do I mean import add-ons? And so one of the things we're going to do is we're going to talk about what it is. We're going to talk about who this applies to and who this is important to, and who's going to love this. We'll go through sort of step by step how you actually do it. And I'm going to tell you what's good about it. I'm also going to tell you some things that I think still need to be improved about it to make it even more useful for creators. And then if there are questions, I'm happy to answer those. And I'm also curious to see what other people's instant reactions are to this new feature. But what are we talking about here? What is this new feature? Well, the new feature is a feature in the reward builder, which is where creators that are setting up their Kickstarter accounts can create the rewards that they offer their backers. And it's in the rewards section when you're building a project page. And now you have the ability to import add-ons from previous Kickstarter projects. So what are add-ons? Add-ons are additional items outside of a pledge level that people can add to their projects, and that backers can add to their pledges, sort of on an a la carte fashion, and sort of really customize their own pledge levels. So and now Kickstarter has a feature where you can, rather than having to create or recreate all of your add-ons from scratch every time you do a Kickstarter, now you can actually pull add-ons from a list of add-ons from your previous campaign pages. You may be wondering, hey, is this something that Kickstarter, I thought Kickstarter already supported this. Wasn't this something that they already did? Like I remember them updating something. If that's you, you might be remembering an episode of Comics Launch that I did several months ago, which was on Kickstarter's new import project item or import previous reward tiers feature. And so earlier this year, Kickstarter imported or had a similar feature, which was and worked similarly, which let you import rewards from past Kickstarter campaigns. But one of the comments that I had on that episode was that actually, more so than importing rewards, which every single reward, if you're just about every single reward on your new campaign is going to have to get edited in several ways for the new campaign. Add-ons, however, a lot of times you might have the same add-on offered every single campaign, and it really wouldn't change at all. And so it was this import add-ons that was the more valuable feature that Kickstarter wasn't supporting. Well, they've apparently heard that feedback, I'm sure not just from myself, but from many other Kickstarter creators, and Kickstarter has rolled out now the import add-on feature. So who is this for, and why is this important? Well, the main reason an import add-ons feature is important is because it's going to save creators time. Remember, Kickstarter now versus when it started has become an increasingly it's going to become a platform that is increasingly for repeat creators. Comics as a category has the highest percentage of projects launched by repeat creators. And I do believe that now more than half of all projects launched in the comics category are by creators that have launched previous projects. So, and that's not the case for a lot of other categories, film and music and games, because there are a lot of big game developers. It might be a little bit higher for games and publishing. Authors tend to put out a lot of books, so it'll probably be higher than average for publishing as well. But comics, because of the fact that a lot of comics are serialized, and because we have a lot of publishers that are putting out multiple titles, and the comic creators on Kickstarter and creator accounts on Kickstarter tend to have a lot of repeats. And one of the things that creators have discovered is that when you have a Kickstarter launch, it is a great time to not just sell the new thing, but to offer your backlist and sell stuff that you've created before. And the reality for most publishers is that the backlist is what keeps them able to continue to put out new product and to take chances on things. And the ability to sell more of stuff that already exists is definitely one of the ways that Kickstarter campaigns can become more profitable over time. And so when you are serializing on Kickstarter, though, you may find, especially as your series goes up, issue when you get into the teens or even higher, or if you have a big backlist of similar titles that would make good add-ons for the new project, there's a lot of stuff that you might want to include in your next Kickstarter launch. And prior to this update, if you wanted to offer them as add-ons, you needed to manually add everything in. And, I mentioned Pat Shand and his tweet as this. So just to give an example of what kind of time saving ability there is for something like this for a creator like Pat, who, Pat has got a project running right now under his Cheeky Comics imprint, It's called Nippy. It's exactly what you think it is, sort of a not safe for work version of Frozen. And this is, just one of 24 projects that Cheeky Comics has already created. And Cheeky Comics is just one of a number of imprints that Pat is associated with. But if you actually go to sort of back this new project, you'll find that after you choose your reward, you'll be presented with a bunch of add-ons, and you'll find that most of these add-ons are his past projects under the Cheeky Comics imprint. So basically, Pat is offering the entire Cheeky catalog in or close to it as add-ons here. And this means that every single one of these things prior to import would have to be created or copied and pasted from a previous Kickstarter campaign. And that takes a lot of time. I think there's over 50. I started counting these from Pat. I started counting these add-ons, and then I just stopped, and I'm like, it's about 50 or 60. It's a lot, right? And when you go to create an add-on, like if I was just to create a new add-on, there's a lot of stuff that you have to enter, a lot of information that you have to set up to set these up. So you got to enter a title, a description. You've got to create and then upload an image. You've got to set a pricing, and you can do the pledge amount and then the late pledge amount. So that's 2 items. You can choose whether it's limited or unlimited. And if it's limited, you can how to set up what those limits are. You have to set up the timing, the start and end date. You have to map your add-on to whatever items might be in that add-on. And so that's another thing that you need to do. You may have to upload individual images for each of those new items. If those items weren't already created, you have to answer a question about physical versus digital. You have to set a shipping date. Have to set up where it ships to and what your shipping plan is and what the shipping costs are if you're doing shipping inside of Kickstarter. And you answer all of that, and then you save it, and then that's one add-on. And so if you're someone like Pat, that's an entire catalog of stuff to do. Now, yes, there are ways to do it a little bit faster. So, previously, before this import feature, you could pull up your past Kickstarter and go to that add-ons page and sort of copy and paste from there. But that's even a little bit cumbersome to just transfer it all. And it's a lot of opening and closing. Now, if you were super organized and you had everything in a spreadsheet, it might be easier to copy and paste from a spreadsheet. So that's one way to do it. Also, you may find that duplicating add-ons, what's in those add-ons was a better way to do it, because you could save a lot of those settings that are going to be similar on shipping and launch dates and things like that. So there's ways to speed it up a little bit. But a lot of times the downside of duplicating is that sometimes you'll have to update a bunch of those fields. And if you forget to update the item that was mapped with the title, then you start false things there and things that don't quite that don't match up, and it could lead to errors in your campaign. So this import feature definitely helps, and it helps. This is primarily, obviously, if you're new to Kickstarter, this is not going to be a big deal for you yet. But I have found that even as someone that has been doing this for a while, obviously I teach a course on Kickstarter. I've got systems, I've got processes, but even I have found that over the past year, the amount of time it takes to set up your items and your rewards and your add-ons and the late pledges, and it's more cumbersome. There's more things to answer. There's more things to consider. There's more things to think about. There's more things to upload. There's more images to upload. And so the time to actually set this stuff up has gone up. It takes longer to create Kickstarter page in 2024 than it did when I got started in 2012. That's just an objective reality of this thing. Even if you're a veteran, especially if you're a veteran in the case of someone like Pat, who has 50 to 60 products, or, you know, and that's just his cheeky comics products. I mean, he like, I'm sure there's a lot more that he could offer, because the dude is super prolific. And so literally anything that Kickstarter can do, any feature that they can implement that saves us time, is something that they definitely should consider doing, and something that we should be excited about them doing. It was always Kickstarter's vision that Kickstarter was not going to just be a store, that it's really focused around specific launches for specific products. But the reality is, many veteran creators recognize that when you launch a Kickstarter campaign, that is perhaps your best opportunity outside of a comic book convention in a given year to actually make sales of your backlist. And as a result, many creators, even though Kickstarter is not supposed to be a store, they treat each new launch as an opportunity to set up like a little and build out from scratch a brand new little store. And they do this with every single campaign. And that can be time consuming and cumbersome. And so again, we have to applaud any steps that Kickstarter takes to save us time, because, you know, if you're spending time, that's time you're not using for something else that could be making you money, right? So let's take a look just at how this works. How do you import add-ons? How do you actually execute this in practice? And so here I am. I'm in my rewards tab, and all you do is click the import add-ons thing, and then you have to find the project that you want to import it from. And so, you know, this is probably valid if you're doing multiple series. And so you see, like, these are and it will show all of your projects under a given account in reverse order of when you launched them. So actually, no. I believe this is in the same order that you created the project. So you'll see, this actually even includes a project that I haven't even launched yet. and so there's no add-ons on there, because I don't think I set them up yet. So this is just the order in which you create the projects on Kickstarter, but not necessarily the launch. And so this is a sync project. And so here's my sync. This is the last sync Kickstarter project that we launched. And so this would be the one that I would probably pull from. And so, for example, one thing that I might grab is just the sync trading card complete catch-up set, copy add-on, right? And so that's really all there is to it. You find the project that you're searching from, you scroll the list, you find the individual add-on that you want to add, and you hit copy add-on. Now, once you hit copy add-on, this doesn't actually add this to your project yet. What it does do is it copies the info from that add-on in your other project, and then it pre-populates it with most of the information that was in the last that was in the add-on as previously set up. So it populates it with a title, the same description that you had before. It does not currently import and copy over the image that you had for this. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But it does include the pledge amount, late pledge amount, any limitations that you may have set up, and it also copies over the estimated delivery date. Now, if you hit save add-on, chances are it's not going to let you save, because in most cases, that delivery date might be in the past. So one of the things that you'll almost certainly have to update is the estimated delivery date, which will be for the future. And so, but most other things, you can actually keep the same. And so upload an image, change the launch date change the delivery date, and then hit save add-ons. And now you will see the add-on is saved to our list of add-ons for the new campaign. So pretty clear, pretty easy. And here's some of the things that I think are nice about this. It will speed things up for you. It also is a very good way to make sure that you don't forget about some valuable add-ons that you could add to a campaign. There's been some times where I will go through Kickstarters and I just don't even think of, oh, you know what, that book would make a good add-on. Some people that bought this book might like this book. But there have been a few times that I'm like, I don't know. Is it worth going and hunting everything down and all that information for this book? Maybe not. And I just don't bother doing it. But if most of the work is done for you already, let's not bother doing it becomes less cumbersome, right? And I'll just add the thing. And so I think that's a pretty cool feature to this. Another thing that I actually think is pretty cool is that, and this is a little bit double, like there's two sides to this. And so the same thing that is a positive is also going to be a little bit of a negative for me, but I'll talk about that when we talk a little bit about what still needs to be improved. But it is all like an okay thing that you still need to edit that item and edit the item, double check it and save it before it gets added to your list. Because that ensures that you're less likely to import out of date info. And so like you could say, like, if you just copied it over and it just appeared, you might forget to update the delivery date or change or double check your shipping settings or whatnot. And so the fact that it still requires you to go through and change a few things makes it more likely that you won't copy over and duplicate errors. So that's on the positive side. All right. So yeah, I'm a fan of that. I applaud Kickstarter for doing this. I'm glad that they're doing this. Now, what still needs to be improved about this import add-ons feature? It goes without saying, but importing images is definitely the biggest thing. This feature, for some reason right now, and I'm sure there's knowing what I know about software, having worked in software, there's likely, a few reasons why porting over images from one campaign to the next is not supported, whereas pulling the text, pulling the other settings is supported. But it's definitely makes this feature a lot less useful and a lot more cumbersome to have to manually upload images for every single add-on, especially if these were add-ons from projects that were created 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago. Having to go back and find those images or to create again those images, even if you're someone that's pretty organized, it still can be a pain, especially if you're pulling from older projects. It can be tough to find those things. Sometimes it's tough to find older images when you're working in Canva. And so yeah, it would be really, really good if import add-ons would not just import the text and the settings, but it would also import for us the upload image. And of course, you shouldn't be locked to that image. So if you wanted to update that image, if you've gotten better at Photoshop or you've gotten better image skills since, and you want to do a better job with your image, yeah, by all means, go ahead and let them upload a new image to it. But there's no reason from a user perspective that it shouldn't automatically import the past image. And I would venture to say that most creators like Pat, creators like myself, that will offer lots of past products in future campaigns, like, you would be saving us so much time to just pull that same image, and most of those images we'd be good to go with that. And we just say, good, We got that image, poured it over. You made us upload it once. Let's not forget about it again. Now, so that's, you know, that's a no-brainer. The second thing that I think is also important, just again, from a let's, you know, save us time, is the ability to bulk import as opposed to doing things one at a time. And I got excited. I thought at first that this was going to allow us to bulk import. And what do I mean by bulk import? I mean, the functionality that would be most helpful for creators would be to jump in here and just like you did here, it'd be like, okay, I'm going to copy an add-on from another project. I'm going to click here, and here's my list. And instead of being radial buttons, most of us creators would like these to be checkboxes. And so I would say, well, okay, what do I need? Murder Bus Metal Bookmark. Nope. That was a one-time only limited edition for Sync Just Desserts. I do not want that one. So ignore. But I'm going to want the trading cards, and I'm going to want the mystery bag, which is always a favorite. And of course, I'm going to want these soft covers, and I'm going to, nope, not going to want that, but I am going to want this. And I'd want to just check all the way down, all of my things. And I want to, with one click, and copy all of those add-ons, and they would populate my new project. And then I'd want to be able to do the same for this. So then I could go and say, oh, on this one, yeah, we're just selling hardcovers over here. Let's sell some more hardcovers over here, and so on. And I'd want to be able to pull these all in bulk, and it would make our life so much easier to be able to do that. Now the problem I like, and you know, most of the people that work at Kickstarter, I'm sure, have thought about that, and they got good product people. And I'm someone that has worked in software and software as a service, and understand that when you're dealing with a legacy system and then adding features to that legacy system, oftentimes changing one thing for the better breaks things that are around for a while. And so I'm sure there's really good reasons why they're doing it the way they're doing it here. And I think I already identified one of the reasons why they may feel like they had to do it. And that's because, as we said before, if I just copy like this reward here, copy this add-on, well, the way Kickstarter system works is you are not allowed to save an add-on with an estimated delivery date that's in the past. All right. And so Kickstarter would by default make you have to edit each individual add-on, because each individual add-on would need an estimated delivery date. Now, I believe this is the only thing that you would have to actually change. It's just this one estimated delivery date field. That's the only thing that you would have to change about your add-on in order to make it so that it would save. And so my suggestion for the Kickstarter team, if they decide to really make this a feature that's going to speed things up for creators like myself, like Pat, and so many others, is what you need to do is basically make this a checkbox. And then at the end, you know, when you hit copy add-on, it will say, you know, set a new end date for these things. And yes, sometimes your add-ons have different add-on dates or different delivery dates based on what the add-on is. But most of the time, the add-on date for your add-ons is when you're planning on shipping the whole project. So it would be perfectly fine is if we could just literally, you know, as we are importing all of them, set a global new import date in the future for a delivery date in the future, and that would work. And it would just work for all. And then if we needed to go back and manually change or customize some of the delivery dates for individual add-ons or specific add-ons, we could do that. But what this would allow us to do is, again, with a bunch of clicks and one global change that would populate to all of the imported add-ons, that would allow us to, it would populate this, it would fill this up so much faster than having to literally go one by one by one. And again, going one by one, especially if you're going to break this up into multiple sessions, the chances that you forget something, that you leave something out, that you have to go back, that you're just spending more time and mental energy on this aspect of your Kickstarter project goes way, way up. So those are really the two things that I see. And shout out to Pat again. Pat agrees with me because these were the two main things that Pat pointed out. He said the ways to perfect this. He said after a day of working with this feature for hours, I have more detailed feedback. It saves time. It's well applied. Ways to perfect it. Images must carry over, or we are still manually editing each one at the end of the day, and then being able to select multiple imports at a time. So yeah, I'm 100% simpatico with Pat. I am also simpatico with a lot of the other creators that responded to Pat, excited about this. Clay Adams, who we all know from ComixLaunch, says, holy crap, they finally did this. This is huge. Part-Time Comics says, yes, great call. Trevor Fernandez gives it chef's kiss. And Sylv says, holy yes, I can't wait to utilize this for our next campaign. So clearly they did something good with this feature improvement. And there's still, as you know, we're all works in progress, right? And so there's still some ways that they can improve it and make it even better for creators like us. All right. So we're going to leave. And I want to, before I dive into my next little segment here, I want to give some shout outs to some of the folks that have tuned in live today. Funny Figs. Shout out over there. Excited about the Mr. Dig plush toy. Love to see that. Hydrosylum Comics. Okay, yeah. Having trouble reading today, I guess. Hydrosylum Comics says, more sync is never a bad thing, and is so stoked for this. And he also went over to comicstribe.com/sync and helped get us up to 75 pre-launch followers for the upcoming Sync City of Killers launch. Yeah, again, really excited about this one. If you are already a Sync backer, if you backed the last Kickstarter comic that the last Sync, it's Just Desserts, which is collected Sync 14 and 15, double-sized issue. Really good stuff. And we sent out digital copies to our backers last week. So you now have digital copies of that. And we also got the print file squared away with our printer. It looks like the printer is going to be down for a little bit over the Christmas holiday. And they expect to ship the books out at the end of the first week in January. And we should have them in hand no later than January 15th. Which means we will be shipping out, and most backers will get that by the end of January if you back the last Kickstarter campaign. We're planning on launching Sync City of Killers the week of Valentine's Day. So hoping that all of our Kickstarter backers of Just Desserts get that before we launch the next Mr. Dig plush and Sync City of Killers graphic novel collection. And so, yeah, I'm excited about that. Also, shout out Noble Relating is excited to use the new Kickstarter feature. All right. So, yeah, importing add-ons definitely makes a lot of sense. I'm glad they're doing this. All right. So, what I want to do now, while I have you here, is answer some Kickstarter newbie questions. They came through in the form of an email. So I'm going to pull up the email real quick. Okay. So here's the email. Max von Fafner wrote, he said, hey, Tyler, thank you for your contact and interest. This is actually, so just a little teaser. A lot of times, if you have an email newsletter, and this is a pro tip if you have an email newsletter. One of the things that I like to do is I like to use automation with my email newsletter, but I do automation in order to create real-time interaction. So some of my email newsletter is set up where someone joins, they grab a strategy guide, they attend a workshop. Some of the follow-ups will be very short to the point and just ask like a quick question. And so one of the questions in one of my emails that, and again, this is an email that I probably wrote years and years ago at this point, but it still results in real conversations, real connections with creators every single week. And so one of the questions that I asked though is, hey, what are you thinking about launching next? And I just ask creators, hey, when you get a chance, you connected with some of my content, let me know what you got working, what you're working on. Let me know what's coming up. And so Max just hit reply and said, hey, Tyler, I have a lot of experience in making comics, and I'm currently thinking about the possibility of publishing my own comic. Over the years of work, I've created ideas and stories that I think would be very interesting. I think independently producing a project like this would be the best way to realize it. At this moment, I have some questions about the process on Kickstarter, on the Kickstarter platform. I'm not sure if that's okay to send you questions that are bothering me, but here's what I'm thinking about. And then Max lists out a number of what I would call, relatively newbie questions that people without a lot of Kickstarter experience and without a lot of opportunity to have launched projects like this, just, hey, you don't know what you don't know. And so while a lot of times we talk about advanced features and features that would be valuable to returning Kickstarters, what I like to do sometimes is to make sure that we're also putting out some content for the newbies, because you might be wondering some of these same questions, even if you've been listening to the show for a little bit. So I'm going to answer Max's questions one by one here. So let's look at Max's first question. Does launching a Kickstarter campaign for a comic book project always include physical printing and physical delivery of the comic book? So the short answer for this is absolutely not. There is no requirement for you as a creator to launch a project that has to include a physical copy or that has to include shipping of that physical copy. One of the best things about the Kickstarter platform is that most of the rules of the platform are rules that you, the creator, get to decide about. If you don't want to ship physical comics, you can launch a project that requires no shipping of physical comics. Now, you can do that two ways, right? One, you could do that by not offering physical comics. The other way that you could do that, where you would not have to ship any physical comics to backers, the other way you could do that is how I believe Roy of Standard Comics does it. And what Roy does is after every campaign is over, he uploads his print files to, I believe he still uses Kablam, and he also will upload his backers as a spreadsheet to the folks at Kablam, and they have processes where they do this, and they print and ship all of those books out to all of his individual backers without Roy having to touch a single book. So those are two ways that you can launch a project without actually having to do physical delivery of the book. Now, so that's the other things that you should also know is you could decide where or who you're going to ship physical books to. There are some creators that the idea of international shipping and international shipping rates and customs forms and all of that just overwhelms them, and they don't want to do it. Guess what? You could launch a Kickstarter project that only ships to one country or that only ships to 5 countries. You're in charge. You get to decide. You could launch projects where all of the rewards are delivered via PDF, or all of the rewards are hosted at an external comic shop. in the past, ComixOlogy, there were some creators that would deliver the rewards digitally through ComixOlogy. So a lot of options. All right. And so that's question number one. Does launching a Kickstarter campaign for a comic book always include physical printing and physical delivery comic? The answer is no. However, most of the successful comic projects that launch on Kickstarter, because we are serving a collector's market, and because most comic book collectors still in 2024 like that physical copy, they like the art, they like the artifact, they like stuff signed, and they like getting extra stuff with it. Most of the projects that launch on the comics category do offer physical collected editions that are printed. So you launching digital only comic projects would put you in the minority. All right. A related question: can campaigns be created that do not include physical printing and are only available in a digital version? And can such a campaign be successful? The answer to this, obviously, is yes. I don't say that to be cheeky. I say that to be because based on my last answer, I just said that you can. You don't have to launch a physical, so you can launch projects that do not include any physical books, and those projects can be successful. And earlier in this episode, I shouted out Kevin Laporte and Kevin's cool Substack, where he just identifies all of the projects that launch on Kickstarter each day. It's called The Comics Crowd, so definitely throw him a Substack. And there was a project that launched today on Kickstarter that is exactly the kind of project that Max was asking about. This project right here by Mike Hoffman, it's called Mike Hoffman's Holiday Custom Collection. And so Mike here has an offering of 80 PDF books at huge discounts. And so you'll see this is a very simple campaign. I'm unaware of Mike is somewhat familiar to me, but says Mike Hoffman's been producing his own publishing projects for over 20 years, well known in the comics and fantasy art worlds. And so Mike has kind of a very simple project where he's got a book called The Jingle Book, Legendary Christmas Classics, 36-page PDF comic adventure. It's just $1, all right? And then his other reward is a collection of 80 PDFs by download or flash drive mailed to you anywhere in the world. And so for $80, or excuse me, for $100, you're going to get 80 PDFs. Now, I believe most people will actually opt to just get the download, but it sounds like Mike will mail out a flash drive, a small flash drive, if people need that. And there will probably be a little extra cost if you want the flash drive. But what Mike has done here is put together basically a super bundle of digital comics and comic magazines, 80 PDFs. It's a meaty amount. Now, $100 is still like a big pledge. And you'll see right now he has 19 backers. Most of the backers have opted with that $1 version, that $1 Jingle Book PDF. But he does have 4 takers so far at the $100 level. And so he's currently raised $668 on a $111 goal for this huge digital custom collection. So the question is, can such a campaign be successful? If we are defining success as hitting your funding goal, then, well, here's an example of a successful project that from Mike Hoffman. I do know other creators that have done that have focused on digital only or digital primarily comics. Pulling up one from my pal Ryan K. Lindsay. Ryan, let's see, he first launched Dear Editor in 2014 with a digital only project. And so this one, very well received, 326 backers, raised $2,300 Australian dollars, and was kind of very attractively priced, very low cost to it, and just a cool digital only project. And this was back in 2014. I think in 2014, a lot of creators were doing cool things with digital. We had, ComixOlogy, like looking back at it now, is probably the heyday of ComixOlogy as a one-stop shop. And there were some ComixOlogy focused imprints that were popping up, digital focused imprints that were popping up. It was just it was a cool time. I know Brian K. Vaughan was experimenting with sort of pay what you want comics. We were seeing a lot of anthology webcomic bundles and PDFs and people really experimenting with digital comics a lot. Where we are here in 2024, from my perspective, is that digital still is kind of not been a major focus on the comics category. Occasionally you'll see projects pop up similar to what Mike is doing here with that bundle that we just looked at, or projects like that Ryan launched back in the day. Ryan actually did 3 of these Dear Editor style projects, I believe. And yeah, they did quite well. Dear Editor Hack ended up raising twice as much and had over 500 backers, which is a lot. That's a lot of backers on Kickstarter. And again, 48-page $1 PDF. So here's a good example of a digital only or digital primarily comic. So yes, it can be done. Let's see what else Max wants to know. How long is the typical time gap between the completion of the Kickstarter campaign and the completion of the comic book? So, this is one of those questions that unfortunately it's impossible to answer because there really is no typical, right? Or typical is wildly across the map. It's a similar question as how long does it take to make a comic, right? Well, I launched and funded a comic a couple months ago that it took me a decade to make, right? I've also worked on comics that have taken a couple months to create from start to finish, right? And so it's pretty wild. And the same goes with how long does it take between the completion of the Kickstarter campaign and the completion of the comic. What you should also know is that many creators actually complete the comic before they launch the Kickstarter campaign. And the reason they do that is because there is an inverse relationship between how complete your project is and how much risk you and your backers are taking on when they support your project before it is created. Many creators sort of realize once they jump into the Kickstarter game that actually pushing this Kickstarter for the month long that my campaign is going to run, that's going to suck up most of the time that I would otherwise put towards making the comic. And you've heard people say Kickstarter feels like a full-time job, right? Now, is Kickstarter actually a full-time job? It can be. It could be. And there are some people that pretty much are launching Kickstarter and using it as a full-time job. But for most creators, and I can even say for myself, I had launched and raised over $100,000 on Kickstarter while still holding down a 9-to-5 job. So so it clearly wasn't a full-time job if I was also able to hold down a 9-to-5 job and still have success on Kickstarter. That said, many creators opt to, especially for your first launch or your early launches, is let's separate making the comic from launching the comic, and let's get the comic done, and then we'll launch it on Kickstarter, and we'll use Kickstarter as the primary way we launch it and sell it. Now, some creators that are unable to do that because they actually see Kickstarter as the way that they're going to raise the funds to make the comic in the first place, well, then those creators have to try to balance out, how do I show that I've put enough skin in the game and show that I can actually make the thing that I'm saying to make? How can I get enough done so that backers can trust that the end product is going to be something that they actually want to get in their hands? And then there's a balance. I've long said, and I teach in the ComixLaunch Pro program, like the bare minimum that you want before you launch like a single issue comic is you need to have at least a cover, and you need to have at least 5 fully done, fully complete. This is how the book is going to look when it's done. Pages of sequentials that you're posting on your Kickstarter page, so that backers will have enough trust that you can actually deliver on what you say you're going to deliver on. Now, the more of a track record, the more of a sales history, the more of a background of being someone who delivers the goods when they say they have something to deliver, there's more leeway that you can have. And so you might be able to launch with less done. You might be able to launch with some more things still TBD. But especially when you're talking about first-time creators, my recommendation is you have a really clear idea of how to get this book done and when it's going to be done well before you launch that Kickstarter campaign. Now, there are some creators I know, that they will literally deliver their campaign and deliver their rewards and start delivering the rewards within weeks of the campaign being over. Most of those creators book already done before they launch, and they a lot of times are printing domestically or doing print on demand, and such that they can just rip out and fulfill their backers. Now, other especially creators that might be printing offset and maybe printing in China, well, it might be 3 months after you send off your files to the printer before those books are back and in your hands. It could be 4 months. And so that's going to be longer delays. But I encourage most creators, like, get as much done as you possibly can before you launch the Kickstarter, and try to fulfill as soon as you can after the campaign is over, so that you are in a great position to launch the next thing on Kickstarter. And again, this is why for a lot of, especially first-time Kickstarter creators, you don't want your first launch to be for a massive book. You want to launch a first issue. You want to launch a digital ash can. Again, I always call out Curtis Clow of Beastlands fame, who his very first Kickstarter campaign wasn't even for a comic. It was for like a single print. But that single print launch that raised like $100, it got his feet wet. It's let him see that, hey, this platform is a good place to be on, and it got him established. And so when his campaigns a few years later are doing $50,000, he took the ball and started running with it. So that's my recommendation there. I have a lot of creators inside the ComixLaunch Pro program right now who are launching several times a year and multiple times a year. Earlier today, I shouted out Joey Oliveira, who had 12 successful Kickstarters launched and fulfilled in 2024. So, but if you have long gaps between when you complete the Kickstarter campaign and when you actually fulfill the Kickstarter campaign, that's going to impact your ability to be more prolific on the platform. All right. Couple more questions from Max coming up here. Max asks, does Kickstarter claim any rights to a project that goes through their platform? Absolutely not. This is one of the reasons why Kickstarter is an amazing platform, is a platform that is irreplaceable, and is, in my opinion, like the one indispensable platform for 21st century creators to be on. And that's they don't want your IP. They don't want your rights. They don't want any ownership. They are a platform. They take a small 5% fee for everything that is successful on their platform. And everything else stays in the creator's hands. And you're encouraged to launch on their platform and keep all of your rights. And so, yes, Kickstarter makes no claim to those, to any of your IP. You retain control of it. And what's nice about that is a lot of people are like, oh, should I go to Kickstarter, or should I do a publisher, or should I self-publish? Self-publishing and launching on Kickstarter, and down the line going to a legitimate publisher or a small press publisher, those are not mutually exclusive. I know creators who have done all three. I know creators who have launched projects and funded them on Kickstarter and then taken them to a publisher like Image or Dark Horse, and then came back to Kickstarter to launch the collected edition, limited edition for themselves, and then gone back to a publisher for something else. Like, it's an option. And I've a big fan since the very beginning of this podcast of not this or that thinking, but this and that, and what makes the most sense for me at this given time. So yes, Kickstarter, launching your project. And the other thing that a lot of creators, I see, especially creators that haven't produced a lot of work in the past, is they're like, well, I'd launch on Kickstarter, but I need to protect my thing, and I need to make my trademark, and I get my copyright, and get all this other stuff, and I got to talk to an entertainment lawyer and all this stuff. And honestly, one of the best things that you can do to protect your intellectual property is to start using your intellectual property by putting it out into the world and doing commerce with it. And so there is no protection for the ideas that are in your head or sitting on your hard drive or on your laptop. There's very little to no protection for ideas like that. And I've had the experience where I've got a great idea for a comic, and lo and behold, I see NBC just rolled out a TV show, and the premise is so darn close that you would think that I stole it from them. It happens. There's no protection for that. And so the good news is Kickstarter's not going after your IP, but by putting stuff out into the world, by selling it, that's actually the best way to take advantage of these great ideas that you have. All right. This question from Max says, what are my chances of having a successful campaign on the Kickstarter platform? And what is a realistic upper limit for successful fundraising? So one of the best things, and this is from the very beginnings, baked in from the very beginning, and has maintained Kickstarter's as a part of Kickstarter's ethos, is that from the very beginning, Kickstarter has made its stats page accessible to creators. And this stats page has been largely unchanged since I've been doing this thing, in terms of it just every day it's set up to update with stats. And so you can see we are closing in on $8.5 billion. Is that right? $8.5 billion in total dollars pledged to Kickstarter since its inception, and over 271,000 successfully funded projects. Now, if we're talking about comics only, we see that comics has had 984 projects launched since its inception. Over $271 million have successfully been raised for comic projects on Kickstarter, and that comic projects have a 67.62% success rate. So all time, 2/3 of comic book projects have successfully funded. So in terms of your chances of having a successful campaign on Kickstarter, the data says you got a 2 in 3 chance that your project is going to succeed. Now, when I started doing this thing, when I first recorded my first podcast in ComixLaunch back in 2015, the success rate was under 50%. And so this has been one of the things that has definitely changed. And you'll see that comic projects is by far the project category with the highest success rate. The other thing that's kind of interesting is that the overall success rate of Kickstarter projects is about 41.95%, 42%. That is up a little bit. It's up about 3 percentage points since I remember back in 2015. Comics is up over 17 percentage points in terms of total funding. So definitely, if you are launching comic book projects on the Kickstarter platform, you are in the place with the highest likelihood of success. Now, again, it's important to note, though, that while comics is #1 in success rate, in terms of successful dollars raised, comics is bottom half, kind of in the middle to bottom. You compare comics to games, or excuse me, sorry. Yeah, like games is far and away the most successful, and it's almost like 10x what's been raised for comics projects, 2.49 billion for games. And so that's, again, total dollars raised. And a big part of the reason why comic projects are as successful as they are is, you don't actually need all of that much money to make a comic book. One of the cool things about our industry. Now, the second half of Max's question is, what is the realistic upper limit for successful fundraising? And so the other thing that Kickstarter does, which is nice, is it actually shows what the number of projects are in each category of dollars raised. So you can see how many projects raised under $1,000, how many projects that were successful raised under 10,000, under 20,000, under 100,000, and under $1 million, and then over $1 million. And so what you will find in crunching these numbers is that about 75% of projects on the Kickstarter platform raise less than $10,000. And like 0.01 projects raise over $1 million. And even 100K plus projects, of which now there have been 358 all time in Kickstarter history for comics. Those projects are still, only 1.5% of projects that launch on Kickstarter expect to raise over $100,000. But the other cool thing, and the other place that you can check in Kickstarter, is on their Explore page. You can go to their Explore page. You can look at comics. You can look at most funded. And you can see that actually we set, there was a new record set this year. Shout out to the fine folks over at Skybound, who set a record with the G.I. Joe Real American Hero Compendium set, which had over 10,000 backers and raised $3.7 million for this massive collection reprint of all of the classic Marvel and beyond G.I. Joe comics from the very beginning. So if you want to know what the realistic upper limit for successful fundraising is, right now that upper limit is $3.7 million for a world-renowned, beloved IP for people of my generation. Chances are you don't have that. But what you can do if you want to get serious about this is you can start diving in and look at and dive into the history of all of those many projects that have launched on Kickstarter since the very beginning. Try to find some projects from creators that are like yourself for books and IP that is like the ones that you're working on. And you should be able to get some really good information about what might be possible for you. And then the last question that Max shared. Let's see what we have here. Okay. Final question Max asks is it necessary to include a friend who is a much more famous name in the world of comics writer in the campaign for it to be successful? So the answer is no, it is not necessary to include that friend. However, if the friend is actually working on your comic, of course you should include that person's name. And yeah, I mean that is something that should be a little bit. Again, it should be self-evident that the more selling points that you can provide the market, the better the likelihood is that the market will respond positively to what you have to offer. And so, if you have a famous writer who can be associated with your project, even if it's just a famous writer that's maybe writing the foreword for your book, or could they write a short in the back of the book, or could they provide you a pull quote? All of those things can help your campaign because you're establishing something. You're taking something that's established, something that's a known quantity, something that the market has already deemed, hey, we like this stuff, and you're applying it and attaching that with something new. That's never a bad idea. But is this absolutely required? Absolutely not. There's plenty of creators that I've worked with over the years, hundreds of them, in fact, that, hey, they're not named quantities and they don't have anyone who's famous associated with their books. And they still are able to launch and fund and take things up a notch and then build their own following. And then some of them are now names in the world of comics, or at least in the world of crowdfunding comics. And that's actually a pretty great place to be. So there you have it. And thanks, Max von Fafner of maxvonfafner.com for sharing some really great questions, especially people that are new to the world of comics and crowdfunding and Kickstarter. If these are questions that you've had, if these are things that you've been wondering about, if these are things that you've been thinking about, I hope you enjoyed my perspective on it. I will also, while I'm here, give a quick plug that if you are somebody who has yet to take the leap into Kickstarter, or you're feeling nervous about it, or you're not sure where to start, or you just want a framework for feeling it out and seeing how things could work for you, I have a free masterclass that's available. You can just go to comicslaunch.com/class. It runs about an hour. There's opportunity for Q&A. And you're going to learn why Kickstarter is the most lucrative platform to launch on, the top 3 mistakes that comic creators make when launching, the secret to getting Kickstarter to promote your projects, and I'll provide you with a 4-step framework for getting your comic project funded. Just go to comicslaunch.com/class. Check that out. All right. We did a lot today in this broadcast. Hope you all are doing well. Thanks. Ramsey popped in. What's up, Ramsey? Good to have you here. Great to see Funny Figs, Noble, Hydro Asylum Comics, and everyone else that catches the replay. Great to hang out with you. Have a great rest of the evening, and I can't wait to see what y'all launch next.